why did you ultimately make this decision that you wanted to run for mayor of New York City in this election?
The question really became, Kurt, why shouldn't I run? I think the city is a mess. It's in chaos. It's in crisis. And if the politicians had done such a good job, and if they've, working so hard, why are we in the crisis that we're in? Why are we in such trouble? So I really do believe it will take someone with a big brain and a smart businesswoman to get this city out of this crisis.
Barbara, I don't think a lot of people are really familiar with your story as far as, what you've been able to achieve, what you've been able to accomplish. And can you tell us a little bit about, your previous experience as far as, especially in the business world, and how that relates to the kind of mayor you would be?
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in the Bronx. I went to the public school system, which I'm really, really proud of. My mom was a school teacher in the Bronx. And so my roots are there. So that's why it's very important for me to, relate to Bronx people because I really am one of them. And I started a construction company when I was 23 years old. And what I did was, I came from a hardworking family, and I believe that all you needed to do was put in a lot of sweat equity. And I believed as a New Yorker, the city gave me so many opportunities, and I took advantage of every one. And so I started and founded the largest female-owned construction company in New York City, and we're located right here in Midtown Manhattan. And I work in a male-dominated field. I know what it's like to have courage, determination, resilience, and these are all very important characters when you are mayor. I mean, it's not only about sitting behind a desk. When you're in construction, you're out in the field. You're making sure that the people that are on the job sites, they're safe, that things are being built appropriately and on time, on budget. You're following schedules. So I'm a very organized individual, and I believe that as a leader, you put the appropriate people around you. Surround yourself with the right teams, you put together the right cabinets, and you tackle things that are very important to me, like public safety, education, the homelessness issue. Those are very things that are very near and dear to my heart. And as mayor, this is what I would tackle.
I want to get into a lot of the issues with you, but first, there's been a lot of focus on your reality show experience when it comes to your campaign. What are your thoughts on that? Has it made it, what are your thoughts on it? Has it made it tough to, I don't know, be taken maybe seriously as a candidate by some, or to be looked at as a certain way versus some of the other candidates? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, the first thing I'm a businesswoman. I've been a businesswoman for 30 years in New York City. So I've built a multi-million-dollar construction company in the toughest city in New York City. And with that, I've been able to expand into other areas, such as writing books and being on reality TV shows. Now, those experiences have led me to be able to be in the public eye, um, make public appearances, speak to the public, and deal with people that you wouldn't necessarily want to be around. And I think being on reality TV, it was a positive experience, but yet you wouldn't necessarily, those wouldn't be your friends. So as mayor, I'm sure that there would be many people that have different views and different personalities, different characteristics, and you have to really hear everybody's point of view and react accordingly.
That being said, I have to ask, at least for the fans of the show out there, because I know you had an event just about a week ago with some of the cast members here. Are we going to see any Housewives out on the trail with you, helping out, supporting, doing these sort of events as we move our way forward?
Now, no housewives with me. I do have some support from the New Jersey housewives, which is really great. Marge from New Jersey, and let's see who else. Kate Chastain and Heather Gay from Salt Lake City, and Bronwyn from OC. So there have been a lot of housewives that have reached out to me.
All right, let's get down to it here, because I know you've been talking about yourself as a builder, obviously, and somebody here who wants to help rebuild New York City. And we have a lot of work to get done here coming out of this pandemic. A lot of issues we want to get into, obviously, but regarding the recovery from the pandemic here, what do you feel is the most important issue that needs to be tackled right away, that you would look to tackle right away?
I mean, the first thing I would do is stabilize the budget and expenditures. Cut out what you're not supposed to have, and bring in what is really crucial to New York City right now. What's really crucial is the economy. I mean, the economy is the infrastructure of New York City. And if you don't get people working, if you don't get small businesses up and running, if you don't get new businesses up and running, if you don't get the restaurant industry up and running, you can have major issues. And also, you don't want people to leave the city. And the people that have left the city, you want them to come back to the city. So we need to get people to stay, and we need our people to come back. So, and how you do that? Crime, public safety, crime. There were about 47 murders, I think, since January 1st already this year. I mean, that's a huge increase. So I would stabilize the crime. To me, if people are able to use the transportation system, meaning walking without being worried about getting hit on the head, going onto the subway without worrying about getting thrown into the tracks. This is, the part of New York City that makes business run. So we have to get the crime under control. We have to get the homelessness issue under control. I mean, it breaks my heart to see people without food, without shelter, without family. But we also have spent $300 million since COVID started in 63 hotels. So this is just a Band-Aid. We need comprehensive plans that are laid out in this city because it is the greatest city in the world. And we need somebody that is going to lead New York City into the future, not just put Band-Aids on problems that happen as they happen and be reactionary. And again, if the politicians have done such a great job, why are we in this mess that we're in?
And Barbara, you talk about bringing people back, and when we talk about small businesses, especially in the Bronx, they really got hit hard, obviously, with the pandemic and what happened there. And now what we're seeing as things are starting to reopen are a lot of empty storefronts, and unsure if those places are going to come back at all. And the places that have remained open are still struggling and not sure where they're going to get aid from. As a mayor, what kind of assistance do you feel you could offer to those kind of small businesses to help get them through this and maybe get them to reopen their doors?
Well, I would like to be the mayor for small business. That's what I would be. I own a small business in New York City. And how I would do it is give incentives. Okay, I would give tax incentives to different corporations, landlords, to lower rents. Not only that, but as a woman and in small business, I would also give tax incentives and also special incentives to women and minority-owned businesses, because we already have that in New York City, but it's not working. Okay, to get through that bureaucratic mess of the MBE, WBE program does not work. I would streamline it because I really want to see African American women and Latino women move up the economic ladder. That is very important to me. And also on the education front, I want to see, prior to the 1975 fiscal crisis, there used to be a free education system in New York City. I want to be able to bring that back. I want people in high school to be able to go right from their high school to a free university in New York City. Because you know what would happen? We would create more jobs. Okay. And we need to bring the middle class back into New York City. That's what we're missing.
And when you talk about creating jobs, that obviously would help with people having more income and then being able to afford their rent. And that's another issue that we saw when it comes to housing. We obviously know that, there's been, especially in the Bronx, there has been building, but it's come with some issues as far as is it truly affordable housing for the people in the borough? You're a builder, you're in construction, you get where we're going with this. So what would you do as far as, making sure that there is truly affordable housing here in the city? And in that, to that point, how do you address the situation and the issues that currently exist with NYCHA?
Yeah, I mean, it's very mismanaged. So as a mayor, common sense policies, and as a builder, okay, I understand how to build. And what I see going on with NYCHA, what I see going on with the landlord, the New York City is the largest landlord in New York City, and it blows my mind how the renovation process and the construction and all the property that we own, and we can't find affordable housing for people. So I would create a deputy mayor of construction that I would appoint, and I would make sure assess all the NYCHA property that we have, and how we can make that more suitable and more affordable for especially, you know, young people, number one, and also single moms, number two, families, number three, and also the homeless. There's a whole bunch of housing that is just sitting there that we can use for the homeless. And also in New York City, if we want to attract young people, we also want to attract like the technology and to New York City to create more jobs, and we need people to be able to afford to live here. So it's just, it's one big flow chart that has to be addressed.
You spoke briefly about safety and making sure that people feel safe here in the city, and that goes hand in hand with the role of the NYPD and what kind of role they should play here in the city. What are your thoughts on the current role of the NYPD? Should it be lessened, increased? What do you think needs to be done?
I mean, when people say they want to defund the police, I mean, that's like, to me, I don't want to have inflammation anymore. What does that mean? I want to defund the police. First of all, people feel over policed, but yet they feel underprotected. We need to be able to get along with the police. We live in the largest city in the country. Okay, so we need the police. What I would do is I would create committees again to go into areas, different communities, to see which communities need the police more. Okay. Also, I would put together a task force that would oversee gun control. I mean, why aren't we taking money, and instead of taking it away from the police, let's put it in areas where it's more important. Like I said earlier, we've had 47 murders since January 1st because there are guns on the street. I want to get the guns off the street. And to do that, we need to work with the Port Authority. We need to work with New Jersey. We need to be able to stop the inflow of guns into our communities. And to do that, we would create a task force. So, as mayor, I would analyze the different areas of the police department and act accordingly.
What are your thoughts regarding the city's education system and where they're going? Obviously, a new chancellor coming in now. There are going to be some changes, most likely, to the city's education system, and we're coming out of a year that I don't think anybody saw coming as far as how the children were going to be educated. So, what are your thoughts as far as the system? What can be done?
Well, children need to be in school. Parents need to go back to work. I have a lot to say about the education system. Like I said earlier, we need a free education system. I also believe that minorities from communities that are lower income, we need to help them. And what I mean by that is not wait till the eighth grade. We need to do that when they're in the third grade, in the fourth grade, in the fifth grade, and get peer tutors to help them. We need to create academic camps. We need to have more vocational outlets. So we need people to be able to learn how to be electricians and carpenters and plumbers and architects and scientists and congresswomen, and so there are so many things that I feel very passionate about education. The young people of today is what is going to make the city in the future even more vibrant. So a lot of my effort in the first 120 days would be to work closely with the DOE and the UFT, and to try and get, also public safety for teachers is very important to me. So, teachers that are comfortable in schools, and also infrastructure. Things are crumbling, things are falling apart. We need to fix the schools. We need to make it so that children and teachers like where they're spending 8 hours of their day. So, a lot of it to me is about rebuilding. When I talk about rebuilding, I talk about the foundation. We don't want crumbling foundations around us. We want it to be strong and powerful. And that's how we build from there. So we focus on the infrastructure, and that's what I mean: crime, safety, children, education. And when you build all of that up, you start to see flowers bloom. And that's what it's going to take with New York City
You sent
and
out
New Yorkers, Queens, Brooklyn. I don't want,
of course. No,
yeah, I don't want to see
go ahead, please.
trash in the street.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to see trash in the street. When I'm in Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx, sometimes I feel like these are the the forgotten communities. And I don't want to see that. I mean, if I was mayor, I might come in and and fire everyone, because I want to see things that are clean and orderly. And I don't want to see roads that are crumbling. I want to see the New York City of the 21st century. And I don't see that right now.
And to that end, you tweeted out a little while ago about some of the issues that you felt were being ignored and issues that you would focus on more as mayor. One of those was domestic violence, child abuse was on there, healthcare, also the LGBTQIA plus issues. This was obviously another thing. Some of
Yeah.
these issues obviously mean a lot to you. I want to talk about some of them, but I'll let you take the forum here and talk a little bit about these issues and why you think they need to be addressed right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, LGBTQIA issues need to be addressed because there's violence, hate crimes, transgender issues. People deserve to live how they want to live, and nobody should be judged for who they choose to love, how they choose to be, what they choose to look like. And anybody that does a hate crime because of that will be punished. I consider that a violent act, a violent crime, and they would be punished. So I want to see more, um, anything regarding those communities. I want to see police put more into those communities, and I also want to bring back the nightlife. For LGBTQIA communities, the nightlife, the bar scenes are very social for them. That's where they meet, they congregate, and that's another reason we need to get the restaurants and the bars and all back up and running, because people need to go out, and the more people that get vaccinated, we should be doing that. And as far as domestic violence and child abuse, I mean, that is something I just won't tolerate. I don't care if you've never had an offense. If you are someone that is violent to a woman, if you're violent to a child, you're going to jail. If you steal Granny's pocketbook on the street, I know people are saying that's a petty crime, but if you hurt Granny, that's walking down the street, and you steal her bag and you send her to the hospital, you're going to jail. So I'm going to be, a little tough on crime. I want, like I said, people to be able to walk the streets, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, and New York. I want to be able to walk the streets and feel comfortable in the city that we live in. And, and that is also creating more jobs. So people aren't struggling and people don't feel like they need to steal. So everything connects to each other.
What's your current opinion of the current mayor and the current administration?
Well, he did one thing good. He, did the universal pre-K, which I thought was really great, but we can't stop there. We have to keep going. But overall, I think Mayor de Blasio did a very poor job as mayor.
Fair enough. Why exactly? I mean, is there a main reason why you feel he did a poor job?
I felt like he was not a good manager and not a good leader. And I think he to be a good mayor, you can you have to be a good leader. So I didn't see leadership qualities coming from him. And during the pandemic, I didn't see him as a government. I didn't see him protecting our community. It was in chaos, and I know it was the first time that we've ever been through anything like this, but I really do feel like he could have been a little bit more proactive. If I were mayor and we were going through a pandemic, I would have been on the phone constantly. I would have been flying to Washington. I would have gotten on the phone with Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Johnson. I would have said, we need vaccines. We need PPP. I would have done things a lot differently. And, this is what you do in construction. You don't take no for an answer. And when you're mayor, you don't take no for an answer. You don't react to problems. You get in front of them. And that's what he didn't do.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I've heard in other interviews you talking about how the city has become very reactionary to rather than planning ahead. And you mentioned how you're very good, obviously, with your business as a planner. Do you have a plan right away, right out of the gate? Or is it a matter of you're going to see where we're at in, I guess, where we get to that point down the road?
Well, I mean, if I were mayor in the first 120 days, and prior to that, obviously, I would create first of all, I would appoint the smartest people around our area in New York. We have institutions. I mean, look at John Jay College. We have the best criminal justice college in the country. I would pull from there. I would pull from other institutions and corporations and create cabinets, and create real estate cabinets, and uh, you know homelessness issues and NYCHA issues. And so I would create many different cabinets. And it's very similar to running a construction company. You have to rely on your teams. You have to pull the best, and you have to be able to delegate and lead these people into your comprehensive plan. So everything, I haven't seen a comprehensive plan from the city. I People talk a lot, like even the people that are running, they talk a lot, but they're not facing the facts of what we need to tackle first to get the city up and running. And that's what I would do.
Fair enough, Barbara. Just a couple more, and then I'll let you get on your way here for the rest of the day. But when we talk about this and we go through all these issues, sometimes it comes off as there's just so much wrong with the city, and there's just so much that we have to address and we have to fix. But if you run for mayor and you want to run for mayor of New York City, there's got to be something about this city that you just love, that makes you want to lead it and lead the people of New York City. For you, what is it about New York City that makes it so special and makes it a place that you want to be in charge of?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Kurt. I mean, first of all, I'm born and raised in the Bronx. My heart and soul is in New York City. I created my business in New York City. I'm a single mom. I have a son. I'm a parent. My son went to school here. My business has been created in New York City, and New York City has given me so much opportunity, so many chances. It's a city of also resilience, that even if you do fail, which I have over the years, because everybody goes through hard times, I was able to pick myself up and even start again. So the city gave me that opportunity. I'm a citizen of the city. I just feel like I want to be able to give back to New York. And as a businesswoman, I have so many things to offer and so many things to say and so many things that I want to do. And especially, small business and identifying with young people. I want to be able to give young people everything that I feel like I had. And I think it will take a very strong woman to do that.
All right, I'm going to ask you two fun questions. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, and I'm going to preface this by saying your answer does not have to be in the Bronx. But what is your favorite go-to New York City restaurant?
Ooh, okay. Right now, my favorite restaurant is Zero Bond, and it's on Bond Street and Broadway.
Okay, and what do you love about that?
Well, I actually built something in the building. I built a retail store in the building, and I spent a lot of time in the building. And so the building is gorgeous. It represents really old New York, old world New York. It was built in the 1800s, and the restaurant, it's actually it's a club slash restaurant. And it's just very sleek and modern. And it's in this very old building. And I think the disparity between old and new makes it really interesting.
All right, have to keep an eye out on that. All right, what is a fun fact about you that people may not know?
A fun fact. I love Guns N' Roses and I love off-road driving.
Do you ever combine those two? Because those seem like they would go along very well.
Yeah, so I love to drive, just on really bumpy roads, playing loud rock and roll music, and it's usually Guns N' Roses and Metallica. And it's just a way that I kind of like release any tension or anxiety or aggravation that I have, and it's just like a fun thing to do. And those are I love listening to music, and it makes me feel happy.
Very cool stuff. Well, Barbara, thank you so much. And the last question for you before I let you go, there's a lot of candidates on this ballot. This ballot's going to be very full. People are going to get a chance to vote in this election for up to 5 people, obviously with ranked choice voting here. So when people go work their way down the list and they come across your name, what do you want them to remember about you? What do you want them to associate with your name that makes them fill in that bubble next to your name?
That I'm going to be the mayor for New York City. I am going to the be I'm going to be the mayor for small business. I am going to be the mayor that you can come up to on the street. I'm going to be the mayor that you see on the street. I am going to be the person that is going to help dig this city out of the crisis that I believe it's in. And I want people to know that I am a very compassionate human being and I actually really care about people. And I'm just like the girl next door that has risen through the ranks by just working hard. And I want everybody to know that they can do the same thing that I did if you work hard and dream a lot.